Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, the bicycle industry podcast that brings retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders to the mic for honest discussions about the latest issues facing retailers while taking an in-depth look at the person within the profession.
Hello, listeners. It's MBDA President Heather Mason. Our guests today are Jaeger Bubin, founder Velotooler, and Amos Brumble, owner Brumble Bikes and head of operations at Velotooler. Velotooler connects cyclists, bicycle brands, corporations, and bike fleets with local skilled bike mechanics. Listen in and learn how they are working with bicycle retailers, mechanics, mobile retailers, and brands to offer quick booking, expert solutions, and timely service. All right. Welcome to the podcast. This has been like 2 years in the making, right? Like we've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of taken us a while to coordinate everything on our end, COVID and some moving parts. So took a
Yeah.
while.
Well, us here as well. And I'm just back from the Cab to West show. Lots of retailers coming up to the booth saying, great things about the podcast, also mentioning just the diversity of the guests on the podcast. So I've been trying to get this podcast nailed down with Velotooler, with you both, because gosh, there's so much opportunity with the platform. And I know that it's been some years since people really got caught up with what Velotooler is doing. So I think this moment is prime. So thanks for being on the show today, both of you.
Well, thank you for having us.
So
Happy to be here.
let's get into just some background on both of you. So you're a founder at Velotooler. Give us more about where you live. I think you split your time, right, between the US and
Yeah. I split my time between Poland and the US, and now blending my love for biking with tech, and working full time on Velotooler.
and Amos. You were a guest on the show when I first started with the podcast, which feels like forever ago. A dear friend of mine, owner of Brumble Bikes in Rhode Island, also operations director. How'd you get involved in the beginning, or even to this day? What's your role?
My roles changed maybe a little bit over time. I think there's going to be another change kind of coming up, which Jaeger and I haven't necessarily talked about too much. But I got brought in probably for like really two reasons. The technical part, like initially we were offering a lot of jobs that people could pick, like services. So I was brought in for, how long will the service take? What tools would be involved, and then interviewing mechanics directly. So, on the phone.
So it's a full-time thing in addition to running a bicycle store, a successful store. And I know you're hands-on there. I don't know how you have the time, and you're an athlete and riding all the time. Amos, I think we need to take more walks on the beach. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting how those of us who are highly successful and ultra motivated make a lot of time to fit a lot into one day. So I've been really excited to watch Velotooler grow and see your role within it as well. Because, as personal friends, I just see how hard you do personally work. Let's get into Velotooler. Give our listeners a sense of how Velotooler could be a platform that they interact with. Before we do that, though, how are you guys feeling about the industry right now? We're at January 2024, been kind of a roller coaster ride. Jaeger, I see your lips are pierced together right now. Yeah, tell me more.
Well, I really personally enjoy problem solving and working with broken things, right? So there's things I see that are broken, and I kind of I'm excited to fix them. So that's my 5 cents.
You're excited to fix things that are broken, and because I'm familiar with the platform, I know how you're gonna take a very active role in that. Yeah, Amos, I see you smiling. Can you comment as well?
I guess personally, I have a pretty positive outlook for the year ahead. What I'm seeing is, there are more people riding, and maybe the format is a little different. Maybe a lot less racing than there would have been, 5 or 10 years ago. But I just see a lot more a lot more people are riding, and a lot more people are willing to buy e-bikes, like people that they wouldn't have ridden, and now they are. So I mean, my personal thought is, yeah, the industry will have stable growth. I mean, obviously maybe down from those peak couple years, but higher than it's been in a long time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all the new cyclists that have found our sport since COVID, and then the opportunity that we have now to keep engaging with these customers. The e-bike is fueling a new group of cyclists, and I feel like Velotooler, as I was preparing for our podcast today, you're really providing a platform that's allowing people to interact with mechanics, with retailers, with the bicycle industry in ways that satisfy their immediate needs. So you're making it very easy for people to find solutions to servicing or assembly of their bicycle. So lots to get into today. I'm excited about 2024 as well. I'm excited about all the cyclists that we can engage with and that we're going to bring into our industry. So listeners, velotooler.com. When you're not driving, running, riding, doing whatever you're doing right now, finish that bike in the repair stand, but head over to velotooler.com. You're going to want to look at the website. There's lots on there. Jaeger, let's get into what motivated you to establish Velotooler. What were those? You mentioned some challenges that you were going to offer solutions for. Can we get into that?
Right, but first of all, I don't want to sound really negative, and just going to be positive about what happened in the past couple of years. I personally think that industry is slowly moving into the direction where I envision it to be, and where like there's more joint data, increased collaboration, and unity, and full digitalization. So, and I think I'm really excited what you do, and so you bring everybody together. So I think that's really a positive thing, and I think that will help fixing things. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Um, so about how it all started, obviously it's every single startup those days have a little of a story. And my story was just like that. At that time, I had moved to London, and I had my bike broken like in the first couple of weeks, but I didn't have any tools to fix it. And at that time, I was cycling daily, so it was really important for me to actually get on a bike right away. And I didn't have a car, which made it really transportation kind of difficult. And unfortunately, I was away a couple of miles from a nearest bike shop. And at that time, bike shop in London didn't offer any and delivery services. And also I was at that time when cycling was super booming in England. So every single bike shop was so busy. It was really tricky to get an appointment. So I thought, why not to make it easy to find someone nearby to help me? And I mean, this kind of inspired me to start Velotooler in 2016. And we officially, I think, launched by the end of 2016 when I believe it was a bicycle retailer who called us Uber for bikes or Uber for bike mechanics. So that's kind of like the little bit of a story.
So 2016. So it's been several years. And
Yeah.
are we talking about this started as an app or a digital platform or a website? So it's not something that I can hold in my hand, right? But you're more connecting, you're providing that connection, correct?
Yes. Yes. I think the way I see it now, and going back to the past, I think we're definitely a digital app that aim to service the industry as a connector without actually being in the middle. I'm not sure if it's really a good answer, but I think it's a great answer.
Yeah.
Um, so.
It's a great answer. And I remember, seeing Velotooler mentioned several times in bicycle retailer industry news, seeing the launch, the momentum gained, and just in my conversations with Amos and Jaeger, I think you joined me at the Eddie Merckx headquarters, and seeing the inception and mechanics signing on board, that this actually does work. You're providing a great connection, and now you've been evolving, and we're going to get into that evolution. Amos, how do you feel like the past 7 years have gone? Like, do you feel like you're where you would have thought you've been? Are people responding to the app the way you anticipated them to? Just kind of that evolution since the inception. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, obviously everybody wants the uptake of your idea to happen faster. But I think a lot of the early conversations provided like, feedback that, like people in the industry wanted to give. I mean, some of it was positive, some of it was, hey, you could improve in certain areas. Um, so, we've taken that and things have changed over time. And that's where a lot of the developments happened. When you start looking at, like how brands would use it, that's definitely an area where, I mean, I'm happy. Obviously, we'd want more. But, having the ability to connect somebody who needs a service with somebody who can provide it, and it's one of the early kind of marketing ideas was, there's a bike mechanic around every corner,
Mm-hmm.
so.
And how we find those skilled mechanics and make that connection. And I'm thrilled, as I was preparing for the podcast and looking at the website, I'm thrilled to see where Velotooler is today, because I feel like you have a platform that many people can work with, many different platforms, and it does provide those solutions. So let's get into the core services and features that Velotooler offers to bicycle owners. So like how the platform works. I don't know which one of you feels comfortable giving our listeners that dive, but I know there's lots there.
Mhm.
Amos, do you want to start and I can
Sure.
add in this thing?
Yeah. Basically it's fairly simple. The person can go to the platform and they basically sign up because let's say they got a service that they need. They have a bike that needs to be repaired or a bike that needs to be built, and they would sign up through there and essentially send out the request to have the work done. They can also hire, a mechanic or a shop directly. A lot of these services are delivered mobily, but we're working on some other options there. Brands, if they want to get involved, where they have customers that need help, with maybe a bike that they bought directly online and they don't have a dealer of any sort in the area, that's something that we would onboard them more directly for that, in terms of like essentially white labeling some of their services, so that whoever would be on the platform would be working, not so much for the company, but in their place. And then obviously if anybody who can provide the service wants to sign up, that's another aspect that's on there. So we try to make that fairly simple, and we're looking to make it, significantly simpler for NBDA members, which we, to kind of smooth out that process.
I noticed that bicycle retailers, mobile bike shops, and individual mechanics can all sign up to be service providers. Can you just elaborate on that? Is there a fee associated, or how do they go through the process of signing on to be a service provider?
Basically, they're going to go on and they'll, provide their information. We've got a few kind of questionnaires in there. We have like a randomized questionnaire, which a lot of people don't understand what it does, but what it does, that part is it weeds out people that are completely unqualified. And a lot of people, it just stops them. I mean, the questions themselves are not complex, but that will stop a lot of just random people signing up. Then they're filling out some images, what they look like. There's some bank information because obviously in order for them to get paid, we use Stripe as a payment processor. So, I mean, there's been a lot of concern in the past because people have to give their information. Well, you have to get paid. So, Stripe as a processor was maybe a little less known at the time, but it's since become more well known. And if you look at Lightspeed Retail, that's the processor that they're using, which most shops will be familiar with Lightspeed Retail. So that's there. And then there's an interview at the end of the process where, I'll call or Jaeger will call. And like I said, narrowing some of this down for NBDA member shops the process would be a lot simpler because we know that you've already vetted them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So just like we might list our inventory online for a local platform so we can have our inventory found more easily. Is the bonus here, the benefit for bicycle retailers to join in with Velotooler is that their services are now broadcast to a larger audience? Is that one of the perks or benefits for a bicycle retailer to sign up?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, you get put onto a platform. You can be hired directly for the prices that you set. So that's, one way to use the platform for a shop. But the other part is organizing the work. And this is like a big thing for shops, is that I think a lot of times the work comes in, we schedule it and off we go. And a lot of people are going to be able to pre-schedule the work. And it takes a little bit of organization to make that happen. So when a person, a rider says they need their bike fixed, they're sending out like when they want it fixed and what the job is. And whoever the service provider is will then go in and they can change the time. Maybe they'll suggest a different service. But it gets a little bit more organized, and understanding that, those requests are prepaid by the rider. So that work is guaranteed to happen. I mean, unless, the shop decides, or the mechanic, I'm not going to do the work.
Well, that's nice. So it makes it very easy to connect with consumers. So for a shop to join, it sounds like that vetting process is pretty simple. And then if you're a skilled mechanic, mobile retailer, maybe some additional questions. If you're an MBDA member, you're already vetted. So the sign up process is pretty simple. How long does it typically take to get a bicycle retailer, mobile unit, individual mechanic gone through that process and signed up to be on the Velotooler platform?
Uh, the time that they take to fill it out, I think it depends on how technically savvy they are in terms of like uploading photos. I mean, that's really a big one. We're going to say, hey, we need a picture of like your work area. If you're going to drive to the customer's location, and a picture of a vehicle, a picture of yourself, so that they know who you are, what you look like. And so there's always that technical part. Other information like address information. So the person's going to have access to, a piece of mail or something like that. Copy of a driver's license, obviously banking information. So depending, again, how savvy the retailer is, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, for that. And usually the phone call, it's varied in length, but I would say, for somebody that's experienced, it's 10 or 15 minutes. And most of the time they're asking me questions about how it works, or, how do they get paid? And honestly, a lot of times they're vetting us.
Yeah. So it sounds like the process is pretty simple. I remember when I was, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself here, like 20, 25 years ago when I was offering babysitting services, right? I signed up to this platform called care.com, and it was easy for me to put my information in. And then all of a sudden, my information was broadcast out to all of these families looking for a babysitter. And it was easy for me to schedule jobs and get paid, and it made life super simple for me. And so this seems like a no-brainer for a retailer or individual mechanic, mobile retailer, to sign up to have their services now broadcast to a larger audience. So I really appreciate what you're doing here. How has the consumer interaction been since you launched?
Well, the consumer is, and I think what the one thing that probably most people that are going to be on the platform don't understand is that a lot of the jobs are actually brought in by brands and fleet work and some other like things that are actually a little bit more potentially profitable.
Okay.
Versus like, I think a lot of people are very worried that a person will come onto the platform and request like a flat tire change or something like that. And that's kind of like a pretty small part of the business. I mean, obviously, yeah, we'd like to see it grow, but those services that are generated by people, are usually because of a bike purchase.
Excellent. So you're talking about larger jobs, so fleet work or brand work. And let's get into that then. So how are you working with brands, and can you give us a little bit more there?
I think Jaeger probably does a lot more to the brand like onboarding.
Yeah, so first of all, when you look at our front page, it's really just a front page for private consumers, not brands. As a brand, you get invited by us personally, and then you just get then the different view of a dashboard, different features that we offer. So that's how you actually get brand get onboarded. It's just by the us actually creating the account in our system. So the most way the brands are working those days are really just getting into a dashboard. We create a specific services for their needs if they have one. We have like standard services, e-bike assembly, trike assembly, and others. This is the standard what you see on the consumer end mostly, but they also a bit different because, for example, they offer like an hourly rate, right? So sometimes for brand to actually figure something out, they say, well, we need to hire a mechanic for 2 hours, and there's a rate. And that's how the services are different. And for the most part, the way we really work with the brands is like they use this dashboard, they utilize a network of mechanics, they see mechanics, the one they like, and just schedule this work. And we see two cases now when brands working with us. Is one of the cases is when they do create a bicycle profile and actually add the consumer into this bicycle profiles, meaning that when they do that, the consumer become also aware of the platform, and they get all the notification. They know whose mechanic is coming, and they can actually reach out to the brand, and everybody's on the same kind of communication channel. Or it's a one way to do it. And another way, which we see more common now, is like, as Amos mentioned before, it's a white label concept when actually you don't add the customer to that particular bike brand, but you'd add the information and share it with the mechanic and ask the mechanic actually to reach out to the customer and in a way to pretend to be that solution that brand has, right? They own mobile service or a bike shop that actually will reach out to the end customer. So that's a brand, the way we work with, and obviously we do have some digital integration with the e-commerce and promotional booking widget and other technologies that we offer to them. That's on the brand side. Do you want to talk about, Amos, about the fleet work that you also been part of it, so we can share that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most lucrative thing that we have on the platform is fleet work. Essentially, what you're gonna get is like regularly scheduled maintenance that you're gonna get paid for like every month, or I mean, it's usually monthly. It could be bi-monthly, and you can kind of count on that. The work's very simple, in terms of like the mechanic is going to go to the location. There's going to be a set number of bikes that are going to be at the location that need to be serviced. And, the mechanic is going to go through those, lube chains, pump tires, and then, just basically sign off on the work. So I think one of the things that we've run into is that understanding like this work is going to get done repeatedly. The number of steps that are actually required in the service is pretty small, and that, it's not going to be a high pay per bike because the amount of work that you do is it's very quick. I've done it, so I've actually gone to the locations and done the service on fleet bikes, and it's easy, and I mean, I wish we had some like in this area. I'd be snapping it up.
We used to do fleet work at the shop that I ran, and it was fabulous source of revenue. So for that, let's say a bicycle retailer was signed up and working with Velotooler, and then a fleet job did come in. That bicycle retailer could accept or decline and schedule and set their own rates. Is it, just to give us a little bit more detail about how a job is assigned or accepted.
Sure. So first of all, when you active on the platform and we know that a bike shop is willing to do work, that's the first step. So we get frequent requests for the fleet work. We have partners who just basically just by emailing us saying, not even going on the platform, say, do you have a coverage here? We're like, yeah, let us check. So we go on the platform, say, well, it's a bike shop. And if they've been fully verified, talk to Amos, they're aware of the bike fleet work, and we tell them a pricing, what do you get per hour? And if they do agree, we just basically get back to the customer, to our partner and saying, well, yes, we can cover that. And then this is how it happens. And then we start scheduling monthly services on a flexible time. So there's no really time. Like you can choose the week every month and say, I'm flexible, and just find a way to do it. And in terms of pricing, good question. Since the beginning, we were trying to find a market fit. We did dictate some of the pricing before, and then we kind of relaxed the pricing policy, and we allowed people actually set up their own pricing. But the only place where we cannot relax the pricing is a fleet work, because we do kind of have a contract obligation, and there's always a price for that. So sometimes it's something that we don't offer that easily, but we talk to service providers, and if this is not too much, we raise the price and kind of try to negotiate. But there's no really a way on a platform to just change the price, say, well, this is how much you're going to get. Only for the fleet work. Everything else is customizable. So and you can set up your own price.
Excellent. And I see you're working with, I think, 147 mechanics, and correct me if I'm wrong, and how many bicycle retailers? Do you have a lot of bicycle retailers who are interacting with the platform?
Not yet. I mean, I think the states would be like, the statistic on that is like, we started as a mobile service provider, including individual mechanics or mobile, businesses, and we kind of stayed this way. And right now, we're about maybe 95% of our service providers are mobile. They go to people's houses or to organizational locations. So about 5% of the bike shops, including Amos. There's a couple more, different part of the countries, and then we're trying actually to grow that number with your help.
Yeah, I do hope that more bicycle retailers see the benefit to their business here. And, this just reminds me, the transportation piece for riders to get their bikes to stores for servicing can be a big challenge, especially when we're talking about e-bikes. So providing services that does that mobile repair, pick up, drop off at house, I think is really important, and something that we're not always fully addressing. Amos, I know you do a lot of pick up, drop off. Do you find that your customers are really appreciative of that, and that is something that we could capitalize on as an industry in general?
I mean, personally, yeah. I mean, what I find is that a lot of people, at least in my area, they don't actually have a way to get the bike there. Like they don't own a bike rack of any kind. So, and like you said, a lot of the e-bikes, they take a heavier duty e-bike rack that's, it usually is a little bit more expensive, and they opted out on getting that, So yeah, they definitely want somebody to come to the house. And it's nice. I think one of the other things that I've seen is that I've had brands contact me through the app to hire me to go to service one of their customers. So I mean, that's one of the ways the brands can use it, is like literally I've had them just go on there and hire me there and say, this is the customer, so that they don't even have a direct relationship, a corporate account with Velotooler at all.
Right.
They just contact me through there.
So how are people finding Velotooler? You guys must be like search engine wizards, or, I always wonder how people are finding these platforms to interact with. I don't want you to give away your secret sauce. But Jaeger, like how is that? Are you just making sure that you're found and using your socials, or give us a little bit here?
Yeah, so I think we talked about it before, and I think Amos brought it up. Is we're not really focusing on the private customers, and when actually when people are affiliate you with having a good SEO, like, or any type of like mechanism that allows you to be found online. We're not really focusing on that, just because the private customer is not our, I guess, the main goal right now. So we don't really do much on online, because it's really just about the private customer. What we do actually, we reach out to brands. We work with fleet providers, and since this is really profitable to our mechanics, and I think that's this is how we do it, and we don't really advertise online. We just basically
So
get
it's just
content again.
your
Yes.
hard work reaching out to fleets and making that happen.
Yes, we do work with the partners. Everybody likes, digitalize their processes, and that's what we offer. We do it pretty well. And we also work with, like, for example, for the fleet work, we work with the software that actually, the company that does provide, fleet work in bulk, and we did the integration with that software that actually allow to check out the bikes seamlessly for our mechanics. So they don't really have to interact with anyone. They just go on spot and they just get bikes and work on them and leave. So we do a lot of this, which actually simplify processes for our clients, and obviously clients really like that, so they give us a lot of work. So, and I guess
So
that's
I guess since you opened up a question for me, if you don't mind if I pop the
oh
lid on this one. Like fleet work, I often think about the local gym, like their spin bikes, but then I can think about bicycles that a business has for their employees to ride, or that I also think about I don't know, a hotel maybe that has. So can you talk about what is the current landscape of fleet bikes? Like who are you working with? And on top of servicing, maybe there's opportunity for fitting or other things that could be done. I don't, it's a little sideways, but just to give our listeners kind of an idea of what the fleet bike landscape looks like right now.
Sure. So you mentioned the right names, right? It's a hotel, it's a company, the business campus that like just purchased the bikes, for example, 50 bikes for the employees to ride around during the lunch hour. And they see it as amenity. They're not charging the employees or people who stay at the hotel. They just see it as amenity, and most often they don't have the right person who will just oversee the bikes, because in reaching out to a local bike shop or someone else is becoming a little bit of a hassle, because you have to go as a private customer. You have to call them up, see if they'd like to work on those with particular bikes, and usually when you're on the end of that's side, you don't know anything about the bike. You purchase from the company and you just want those bikes to be fixed and work on, so you get to ask all the questions. So that's where we kind of we help. So a company like, for example, a fleet that sells to the hotels and everybody else, they use us as a good source, and they sometimes just basically already sign a contract for us, just because we know we're going to get a good mechanic. We know that it's a profitable work for mechanics that will sign up and do the work. So they sometimes act as yeah, I mean, Amos, I mean, do you want to a little bit maybe I just said too much, but do you want to
Well, I think honestly, a big part of any company that sells fleets to somebody who is going to buy it and offering it as an amenity, anybody who's making the purchase says, well, I'm going to buy these things, but I don't know anything about it. I'm going to need somebody to maintain them. And so a lot of people have to understand is that a fleet won't sell without a solution at the end. And that's what we're providing. So if you want to sell fleets, but you don't have obviously your own mechanics, that's where we come in and create that market of mechanics, even if we have to go find them,
Right.
to get that work. And so then the person sells the fleet, sells the fleet.
The opportunities for our industry to get more people on bikes, these fleets, as we see more establishments, more offices providing opportunities for cycling to their paying customers or to their employees. I mean, that just is going to get more people on bikes and provide more opportunities for bicycle retailers, bicycle mechanics to make these repairs. So I'm really excited to see that and see that growth. And thank you for providing that end solution so more of these fleets can happen. How about the e-bike market? Is there any impact, as you're looking for mechanics or retailers? Do you need to, in the process, vet if they can work on e-bikes? Do you provide services on e-bikes? There's a lot of safety precautions and concerns around that. So just to touch on that briefly.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily see e-bikes being any different from another bike. If a mechanic needs to go to a location to do an assembly, We're not necessarily concerned about the mechanic having to store, like multiple e-bikes at their location. They're going to the customer, they're doing the assembly, they leave. And then, a lot of times we're in at, a new build,
Okay.
not necessarily, we could be brought in for, a warranty related, request, that the brand's brought us in for, and, they're looking for a mechanic and we're trying to provide them. But also, the mechanics have, and any service providers, when they're in the sign-up process, they have the option of saying some areas that they specialize in. So there was somebody I was talking to the other day, and that's one of the things he's really enthusiastic about is e-bikes. So obviously we're going to try to direct, e-bike, services to him.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of opportunity there, and I'm really thrilled to see the growth of e-bikes. All right, so I'm thinking about the way that Velotooler is interacting, and you are providing that connectivity, that in between. You're connecting the mechanic or the retailer with the fleet or the brand. How's that communication happen once that connection happens? Is Velotooler still in that middle of that communication, facilitating that, or is it then kind of turned over to the two people or two parties that you connected?
Well, basically, when that connection gets made, the technical solution that Jaeger's developed is essentially communication within the actual service request. So basically, there's a little, direct messaging. You can get images and pictures, and you can have a discussion with the customer. And I think it's really critical for anybody to understand is that, you're gonna want to do all the communication like on the platform. Because that's a good way to kind of, create like a history of how this service has gone if any questions come up later, versus giving out maybe your personal cell phone or some of that other, ways to contact. Because basically, if something comes up, we're going to say, well, we don't know anything about it.
Yeah. And do you see a lot of your mechanics or retailers are going to get repeat service? Is that often what happens, is that relationship is established and then it's a long, maybe longer term partnership?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good stuff you're doing right there. Amos, you must feel great about this, right? Being a retailer as well and being a mechanic.
Yeah.
And
I am. And actually, Marcus that works here at the shop has gotten, a lot of work out of Velotour, and it's in a way it's great for me. I don't always have, enough work coming in at a given time, and he can, continue to do bike work and maintain a skill set, and get paid versus saying, well, there's not enough work for just to stay at the shop and then leaving the industry, which I think is a very common scenario. Somebody comes in, they work, there's not enough money, and they leave the industry and take the skill set that they have with them.
yeah, we definitely want to keep our mechanics busy and pay them well beyond, you know what I mean? Give them the max opportunity. What about in terms of support? If there's, working with brands, there might be specific parts or other items that come up. What happens like if the mechanic gets to a job and I don't know, things go awry? Is that one of the benefits of working with Velotooler? You're smiling, so maybe this is
Yeah, no, Amos probably can finish. I'll start. I think just to add to this communication bit, is like we're overseeing the communication at the moment. We're trying to basically stay away as much as possible because overseeing it means basically, working it, right, and losing those valuable like resources. And just to mention, right, we only get paid when the transaction happens like completed and everybody's happy, right? That's our motivation to actually make sure that everybody's happy. In terms of like when things go wrong, again, there's a small the part we always mention to the bike brands and everybody who work with us is like it's only labor, right? What you see the pricing is only labor, which means that driving to a location back and forth is also a labor. So when it comes to for us scheduling somebody scheduling through a platform, I think for 95% we do pay for that visit. The mechanics still spend time, so they get compensated no matter how the work actually went, if they were successful or not. And then we deal with the bike brand explaining that, who fault it was, or usually we take, we don't take any sides. We just basically work on with the brand, compensate the money. We take the hit, right? We lose that money. Because we're kind of always comfortable that, confident that the people we're on board, they can do the work. If they do the work, we trust what they do, and they get paid. And the same thing with the brand. If brand is working with us and they feel they're not, they paid for nothing, we return the money. So we kind of like get the hit. So I think, when it comes to parts, Amos can continue that, but we usually say that don't get involved with parts, let the brand handle it for the most part, especially when it comes to e-bikes. So what it really happens, and we find it a good practice, is the brand really ships the part to a customer, and then they go in and reschedule the visit, right? So just to replace the part. And again, when it happens, they replace the part, there's a communication, they upload the pictures, see what went wrong. And regardless where the brand is, because now there are more and more like European, Australian brands are coming across, and they don't have a full team in the US right now. So they can get this information and make a decision in the morning. Well, it's at nighttime in the US, and still like, do something about it, right? They don't have to call and have it. Amos, do you want to add anything to this part?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the situations is a lot of times that the whole connection is going to be after the part has already been delivered to the customer, and then the person who's providing the labor is going to show up. The other thing was, we know, is there's not a lot of margin, in bike parts. So, us, again, we're not looking to be into the middle of that. So I mean, if there's a private sale through the person, between the person getting the service and the whoever's actually providing the parts, I mean, we're just like, we don't know anything about it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to get us in the middle. And we're not looking to skim off, whatever little bit of money there is even there. So
Right. So you're mostly focused on the labor. And then if like a retailer or a mechanic went and there was cables to be replaced or brake pads, that's a separate negotiation between the retailer and the customer, or the mechanic and the customer.
yeah, I think in terms of a technical solution, it's just basically too hard to sit there. And I mean, we all know, like, I mean, if I went into the other room and said, how many different types of brake pads are on the wall in there,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and the variance in prices and knowing like what the correct one is, I mean, it ends up being very complicated. And sometimes, like, again, the mechanic would have the option of saying, well, I need pictures of the brake pads, before I go to the location. If I'm gonna sell brake pads, I need images of what you have, try to figure it out. Again, it's very complicated. Maybe they have to order something, reschedule the appointment. There's a lot of pieces there.
Yep. Yeah, I can imagine there is. So bike fleets, hotels, corporations, you really see this as a growth opportunity? Do both of you see this as really just a fantastic opportunity?
Yes, I think absolutely, because it's guaranteed work. It's monthly work, recurring revenue, and it's very not demanding work whatsoever. I think anybody can do it.
Yeah, we're always talking, it comes up often in our Monday mingles and our P2 groups about the opportunity of working on fleet bikes, or, even selling bikes to local businesses. But it's a lot of work. You need to have a dedicated staff member. You have to put the deal together. You got to do the follow-up work. So this is kind of an easy way for retailers to be involved without doing a lot of that legwork. They could sign up and then get this work coming to them.
Exactly. And you asked me before, how do we marketing, and who does all this online stuff? It's actually our partners who sells the bike fleets, right? Well, they do the marketing, they invest money, and then when they sell the fleet, we come as a service provider, and the service provider can be a bike shop. So all we need from a bike shop is just basically their dedication. They would like to do this, and they be, registered on the platform, and we know that's they're there. Like, for example, one of our biggest contract, we're not even possible until we had like a nationwide coverage. And I think that one of the reasons why we got this was because it was like we could get mechanic all over the place, and that was the key, because nobody on a corporate level wanted actually to work with individuals. And I think that's a downside to working with a corporation. Actually, you have to be a corporation and some like a unity. So.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's 7 years now in the making, and I've seen the app, improve, and you're responding to the needs of, the fleet growth and whatnot. What do you see as future development as we continue to evolve? Anything on your radar without, again, giving away any of the secrets over there, but just continual refinement of the platform, bringing more retailers in. Is there anything that you're focused on?
I think like I'll answer like on mine because Amos is in charge of others part of the business. So I think to me, this concept of SaaS software as a service, it's one of the things that we're really focusing in. Making the matching perfect. I think that's kind of like also using the software, like and not being in the middle. Obviously, using all the technologies, kind of like let everybody's connect and share that data that's necessary to make things happen. And I think that's what I said in the beginning, like I'm excited about all the broken part. And I think broken part, I mean, there's not a lot of unity inside of the industry. And I think it's a little bit easy for me to see because I come really as an outsider. I'm not part of the American kind of like all this legacy that Amos is part of, right? So definitely I'd like to see people more get together. And I think the future is like when you actually can just be all together and like sharing all the data and getting more work as jointly. So I think that's adding more bike shops. I think that's one of the things that we really like to focus and growing internationally because it's really not that difficult to grow the company if you're software to go international.
Which brought up a question I had planned to ask you, but failed to. Geographically, what areas do you service now? Is it just US, North America, certain states? Give us an idea.
Well, we have this interactive map on the website that shows live data. So last time I checked, I think we're in 35, maybe 37 states. So the way it really works, so we are just in the US currently. Basically each mechanic adds their own working area by specifying the zip codes, and that counts as our coverage. So that's really simple. If you go online and see, where we are, just it's a live data.
And Amos, I know you're a bicycle retailer, and I know you're working with a platform. Any other retailers you're working with? Any feedback that you would share about their experience working with Velotooler?
Most of the time I'm, talking more to individual mechanics,
Okay.
and, answering some of the issues that come up there. I mean, I've told them, you can talk to me, if they need some help. I think a lot of times, like the feedback is, like learning how to use the platform and like how to communicate with customers, because obviously, all of a sudden, if you're an individual mechanic, you're going to be in charge of how everything about the interaction goes. So, the customer service end of the deal, the communication, which again, we're trying to make as easy as possible. And, offer them a way to kind of promote their own business. Because one of the things that we, once somebody's onto the platform, eventually, the idea was to remarket those services, very similar to like if you look at the auto industry, you'll get an email that says, come in and fix your car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the idea is to push these people back onto to get their bikes serviced in the future.
Well, let's get more retailers on the platform. I know that you're offering MBDA members a zero transaction fee, so they still have to pay the credit card fees. But more about how MBDA retailer members, our listeners, can start working with Velotooler. Would they just go online to take advantage of that offer, or can you just give us more there?
I think
Yeah, let Jaeger
Well,
answer.
yeah, I mean, I think we'll be and we're preparing like make a special page, like entry from our platform. Just if you're an MBDA member, you can just sign up from that page. I think that's in process. And that's kind of like what I wanted to say. So, Amos, do you want to? Because
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think we see shops as being the most complete service solution, just because, I mean, the ability to have a full store of tools and mechanics that maybe go into locations maybe not particularly practical. And so having shops involved is it for us is a really good way to grow in the future for everybody. And we want to see a lot more of that. You know, and if the shops want to offer the mobile service, that's there. If you look at my own store page, we have something like a booking widget where customers can go on and, you know, request services at prices that I've already set, and it all gets paid out. And this gets to that, it's only the credit card fee part of the deal, you know, so that's something where you're being hired off your own page, like your own website, you know, whatever, www.bikeshop.com, and you'd have your services listed, and we're just there to help you with that part. So there's some onboarding involved, but yeah.
Pretty easy. Yeah. I was on the website velotooler.com/sign up bike shop. Looks like it's really easy to get involved and sign up. So if someone's listening and they want to get in contact with you, maybe they have some more questions, they might be a brand, they might have a bike fleet that they need servicing. How do they go? What's the best way to get in contact with one of you?
My email is amos@velotooler.com.
And I probably will try to reach at team@velotooler.com. Like, so that will get to all of us, and we'll be able to help.
Excellent. And we'll go ahead, listeners, and link in the show notes to the website so you can learn more as well. Amos Yeager, thanks for joining me today. I'm really excited to bring this platform forward to our listeners, hopefully get some more people introduced to the work you're doing. It's fabulous that you're out there making those connections. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate the hard work you've put into this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. Listeners, that is it. And with this we go. Thank you, Amos. Thank you, Yeager.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Bicycle Retail Radio. This podcast is designed specifically for the bicycle industry, dedicated to strengthening our retailers and cycling community. If it is your first episode, we urge you to take the time and listen to our past episodes.